all these years, I was suppressing my feelings. I was fitting in this box, trying to be perfect, people please, putting other people's needs before mine. I never really stopped and thought, and this is what a coach actually brought out in me. It's like, what does Kelly need in this moment? What does Kelly need today? How is Kelly feeling? How are you? Right? So asking yourself, like, what the hell do I need right now?
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Ashley, and today I am joined by the amazing Lynn Adams for a conversation that I believe many of you will connect deeply with today. We are talking about stepping into your power, navigating uncertainty, and the perseverance that it takes to keep going. Kelly is an award-winning entrepreneur, certified trauma-informed business and life coach, international speaker, and host of her own podcast, Perfectly Imperfect. She's also the founder of the Inner Circle, an exclusive women's movement and community for personal and professional advancement. Her career started on Wall Street, led her through nearly 2 decades working with some of the most iconic luxury, fashion, retail, and consumer good brands in the world. And today, she coaches and consults with high level entrepreneurs, high net worth individuals, celebrities, athletes, and female founders. She is also a fierce advocate for women owning their voice and seat at the table, and has been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, the Huffington Post, just to name a few. Her resume does not stop there, but I'm excited to dive into this episode. So with that, Kelly, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Ashley, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
So I want to take our listeners on a bit of your journey, because I think that the arc of it is really so important to what we'll dive into today. You have had a very admirable career working at the highest levels of luxury fashion in retail. So I'd like to start there and just go into the parts of your story in that way that maybe people don't see on the surface, and some of those challenges, as you were climbing the corporate ladder, and finding all of this success, you were also building your coaching business on the side. And then at that point, kind of running into a wall. So take us there. What happened, and how did that ultimately lead to the work that you're doing today?
Yes. So it's been a journey. I'm not going to give you everything. However, yes, I was building alongside for a while. I actually started my career on Wall Street and realized, because all I wanted to do was be in New York and make a lot of money. So I'm like, Wall Street's the way. Then I realized it wasn't the way. I was like, oh, this is okay, but it's not my way. I was like, what's next for me? Because I really didn't know. And I loved fashion. So I was like, I love fashion. I have a business mind. So I got in the fashion industry and absolutely loved it. And I have a history in fashion. My grandfather came from fashion world and I loved it. So I climbed the corporate ladder, and along the way, I worked for some of the best and brightest leaders in the world. I was working so hard. I learned so much. However, at a point and I started my own business because also it was like a next iteration of my career. I'm like, what is next? Because I knew corporate also wasn't at one point going to be my end all be all. And I wanted to do something of my own, but I also didn't know exactly what that was. So I'm really fast forwarding the journey. However, I knew it was helping people because when I went to college, yes, I wanted to make a lot of money and I wanted to be in New York. However, I also loved people. I love sociology. I love the learning of people. I love psychology. And I even did a lot of like psychology work in like the marketing and the brand development and the finance and the operations and all of that. So I knew I wanted to start my own business, but I didn't know what. And I actually found coaching. But when I was in corporate, I was working so hard and I loved every single minute of it. However, I lost myself. I was seeking the validation and the approval of all the people being like, you're doing such an amazing job. So what that led me to do was like work even harder, right? Work even harder. Oh my gosh, I'm getting all the love and attention that I always wanted. We all want love, attention, admiration, validation, all the things. And so that actually led me to work even harder. And I burnt out at one point in my career because I was building the business, scaling the business, climbing the corporate ladder. and my body was just shutting down on all levels, mental, emotionally, physically. I was eating fast food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I landed in the hospital. It took me 2 months to recover. And at that point, that was the turning point. And I was coaching at that point. So how I found coaching, I'll back up a little bit, is I was doing side hustles on the side. I was selling skincare. And one of the women on my team, when I was selling skincare, network marketing company, she's like, you'd be a great coach. And back in 2009, I was like, what do you mean? Like a basketball coach? What? I don't want to be a basketball coach. She's like, no, like a life and business coach. I'm like, what the heck is that? Went to get certified. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. So I love the people, right? Psychology, helping people. And I'm like, I think I can make a lot of money doing this too. So that's when I started coaching in 2009. So I actually did it. I experimented it with some of the corporate execs, like just coaching them, without them actually knowing I was coaching them. And so that's when I decided, to build a business. So I've been coaching people, yeah, since 2009. And so anyway, back to the hospital story, I recovered and I was coaching women at the time around self-love. And then my butt was in the hospital because I wasn't loving myself. Um, so yeah, so that's just one iteration. And I've been through uncertainty, financial uncertainty. I also lost my grandmother and my best friend in, under 2 years, so grief and trauma. There's all different things that have occurred and for me, for my highest good. And so, yeah, so I'll stop there, but that's kind of not really a synchronicity of my journey, but some nuggets.
I think, yeah, it just speaks to all the different layers involved in that way too. And just, what you just said about coaching on self-love and that, and then finding yourself in the hospital and going through that. And now considering the work that you're doing where you're coaching other high performing people. So what did your breaking point in that way kind of teach you then about yourself, in like, let's say around self-love, then that now you can help other high performers, that may be struggling with that as well, and always giving, 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 and not checking in with self.
So what I see in a lot of high performers is, yes, they check in with self and sometimes they ignore it or they utilize it and say, okay, great. What has gotten me to the high performer? Because this is the thing, this is really in the IFS, internal family systems work, where they say all of us have different parts. So the part of high performance or the part of discipline or the part of all of that has served us. So you and I and whoever's listening to this, right, or watching this, is we have gotten to a certain point of success. How? Because all these parts, they're not good or bad. They're just parts that are activated in us. And that's why high performers are so incredible, because they utilize these parts of discipline, motivation, pushing, right? And it serves, because it's like, oh my gosh, I achieved. I felt a certain thing. I'm going to keep doing and going. However, sometimes that part is overused. So we may not listen to it. We may self-sabotage. We may just keep doing it because, oh, well, experience taught me that if I do X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to get the result. And sometimes it's not that that part is bad or not good or anything like that. It's just, we're not utilizing it in the most optimal way.
I was just going to ask too, how aware is anybody even aware of what's happening as a high performer, right? You're just going through, not recognizing maybe some of these patterns, or even potentially not recognizing those warning signs of maybe a burnout that's coming as well too. How do you cultivate more awareness of that?
Well, I'll share stories. Yeah, share stories. So I was aware, right, when I was I knew what I was doing when I was about to really hit like rock bottom in my burnout story, where I knew breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I was eating fast food. I knew what I was
Mhm.
doing. I knew I wasn't drinking enough water. I knew I wasn't exercising and moving the body like I quote unquote should have been doing. I knew I wasn't really seeing friends or partying, or if I was, I'd party like, it's like play hard, work hard, party hard, like all of so I knew consciously and unconsciously what I was doing and not doing. However,
Mhm.
the reward was higher than the cost at that point for me. So I really wasn't, it's not like I didn't care, but I was like, wow, the reward is the reward system was higher than what I thought was costing me. However, the thing is this is where, when we talk about trauma, little t trauma, big T trauma, anything could be trauma to someone. Someone being called a name when they were younger could be similar trauma to someone getting into a car accident, right? Like it doesn't, everyone's different, right? Everyone has different experiences from the ages of 0 to 7. We are our subconscious. We're bringing in everything that is in our environment, what was done to us, what we experienced, how we were raised, type of caretakers we were around, the friends, the experiences, the school systems, all the things. So it's, again, it's not good or bad. It's just what is pushing those buttons, right? So you could be aware and say, oh, I know this is not good, right? Same thing if we're trying to release weight. We all know we need to move our bodies and eat certain things and drink water and get enough sleep and eat our protein and all the things, right? However, why does America also still have an obesity problem? Yes, it's the food. We can go all down that rabbit hole because there's other, things that, right? But I want to get into that conversation. However, taking radical responsibility for ourselves, we know what to do. We know how to bake the cake. But it's like, what's getting in the way? And sometimes giving ourselves grace and space, because sometimes also we're in different seasons. Sometimes there's aging parents, right? Or grief that people are dealing with. So yes, sometimes it is self-neglect that we're taking care of. So there's a lot of things going on. So I don't want anyone to feel like they're wrong or bad, they're not doing a good job. It's like maybe the season's just hard, right? And it's like what got me through it is, okay, I'm doing the best with what I have, with what I consciously know at this point. And could I be doing better? Yes. However, for me, what worked, well, what didn't, what I learned is like baby steps, right? 1%, like, okay, can I go outside for 2 minutes? Can I drink more water? Like, not putting these like crazy goals on ourselves. And some people are like, listen, I need the crazy goals. So again, I think it's a very personal journey. To me, there's no framework or cookie cutter answer to this because everyone's wired differently.
Yeah, 100%. I wonder, like, as you're also going through that process too, how had any support alongside you play into that in your career and then the work that you're doing and helping others along their journey?
Well, of course, I'm going to say get a coach, get a therapist, get an advisor, get a consultant. Because, yes, I mean, having someone that can look at your situation from a 180-degree view. And I even coach my clients through this, like take yourself out of your body if you can, look down on your life, like, and say, okay, I'm going to take a 180-degree view of my life. Where do I need to focus on? What's going on? And sometimes you cannot see the blind spots. That's why you
Yeah.
hire the coach. That's why you hire, right? Or you say, I have
Yeah.
a blind spot, like, but I need some accountability and I need people to like help me, support me for so long. And I still am working on this is I didn't ask for support. Like, I'm like, I got it. I'm the
Yeah.
firstborn. I pretty much like raised my brother, my younger brother. I'm like, I got it. Right. Like I can do it. I've done it. And guess what? Experience and past things has showed me that I have got it. Right. Put myself through college. There's certain things where I'm like, I got it. Even in sports, right? I'm like, I got it. If I practice and do X, Y, and Z, like I know what. However, it's like, okay, great, one woman show, but like that's not sustainable. Everyone needs help. Everyone needs a support. Everyone needs community. We are wired for community. We are not wired for isolation and doing it on our own and all the things. So I think, and not I think, I know for me, that was a very like asking for support. And it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable
Yeah.
sometimes to be like, I need help, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's such a there's and again, I also just speak from my experience in a way, but as somebody who has always had this high performance mindset, right, in sport, in work, in school, and all of the things of just this achieve, achieve, achieve. That for me too, I was like very resistant to anybody helping me in that sense. And then whenever I also went down the journey and started working with a coach, mentor, different therapy, like going through those processes, now I am the biggest advocate for others in this way to, hey, whatever it is that you're navigating and going through, hire somebody like yourself to walk through that process, help point out some of those blind spots, especially when you can relate on that level in high performance too.
Yeah. I mean, therapists need therapists, right? Like hairstylists need their own hairstylist. Like, so it's like we all need, and not need. I mean, we don't need anything, right? But it's useful. It's helpful. It's if you want to optimize things. And again, different seasons, right? And one season you may not want to optimize a certain area of your life, or maybe you're going through. I mean, this really helped me too. Like, I really also leaned on my spirituality, like when my grandma passed and I was her, main caretaker, when my best friend suddenly passed, like without any, like, so it was like, wow, like who do you lean on when you're dealing with also grief or things that are beyond your control? And it's like, because listen, I'm type A. I am like, I got it. I love control. But it's like, guess what? Like, not everything is in your control. Not everything is your plan. And some people have a very hard time with that. And it's like, yes, control the controllables and allow grace and space also to let God, universe, whatever you believe in, like create the magic too.
Yeah, so good. Such an encouragement because that is the struggle with control. And sometimes there's literally things that we cannot influence the outcome. So then what? And being able to connect. I mean, I feel that a lot just in my own journey, like connecting to that hope, and that my faith has been important in that way too. So I think that's yeah, it's such an encouragement. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to go back to a bit, on your journey and also those voices in your life that had said to you like, hey, get into coaching, right? Like this is for you. And then you exploring that and really stepping into your power in those ways. And so I wanted to kind of transition there on that and navigating uncertainty at the same time. So how do you take that step in it without knowing exactly how it's going to unfold?
Knowing exactly how it's going to unfold, you're not going to. So it's being comfortable in the uncomfortable, being comfortable in
Yeah.
the uncomfortable. So how do you do that? It's brick by brick, right? It's expanding your capacity. So, for example, grief, right? Like, I wasn't ready for my best friend to die. I was just grieving my grandmother and getting over it. So, how, like, what the heck? Like, I was like, God, you need to time out. Like, I can't. So, but it's like, okay, this is highly uncomfortable, right? So I'm going to grief because that's like a bit, that's a, like,
Yeah.
you can't really argue with grief.
Yeah.
Also, you may not know the next step. It's like, okay, right in this moment, what do I need? Asking that question, because also when I burnt out, I developed chronic illnesses. So it was
Mm.
like, I wasn't asking myself all these years, I was suppressing my feelings. I was fitting in this box. I was, just trying to be perfect, people please, putting other people's needs before mine. And it's like, I never really stopped and thought, and this is what a coach actually brought out in me. It's like, what does Kelly need in this moment? What does Kelly need today? How is Kelly feeling? How are you? Right. So asking yourself, like, what the hell do I need right now? Right. Um, that is very important because a lot of us do not ask, right? I wasn't asking, what do I need? I was doing everything for everyone else. So that's one thing too, but also getting comfortable in the uncomfortable. And then just again, asking for help, asking for guidance, asking what's my next step, following those nudges, following those intuitions. I say that we all have our own internal GPS. You can't screw it up. Think about GPS in your car. It's saying to make a left turn. If you don't make the left turn, it's not saying, hey, idiot, you didn't make the left turn. Like, what are you doing? It's just like, okay, reroute. Now go make a right. So also a lot of this is our self-talk, our self-thoughts, like who we think we are not. So a lot of this is like, how are you talking to yourself when you're by yourself? That's huge. Like, what are you saying to yourself when you're by yourself? Are you doubting? Are you questioning? Are you, well, I don't know. Like, can I really do this? Am I really good enough? Is it even worth it? So that, but it also starts, a lot of my work starts like at what I call the identity level. It's like your future self, right? Whoever that it is, 80 years old, 40 years old, whatever it is, your future self that has everything that you want, experience, how would they be? Right. So when you think of that at identity level, it's like, okay, what are the thoughts they're believing? What are the actions they're taking? What are the conversations they're having with themselves? Who are they placing themselves around? What environments? What are they eating? What are they drinking? What are they talking about? So it's like everything from that. How are they moving their body? Right? What are they reading? What are they listening to? It's consumption on all levels. So if you start at identity level, it is intertwined, but also not putting so much pressure on yourself because again, internal GPS says, even if I make a left turn, you will always be rerouted to the next, right, iteration or next turn that you need to make.
I think it's really interesting because when you think like with identity here and then everything, kind of coming underneath that. And I think about just like coming back to that core of who you are in a lot of ways, because a lot of uncertainty can come from that place whenever maybe we don't really know so much of who we are outside of like certain things that we're doing. So what's your thought on that of like coming back like for somebody who is okay, let me try to like re-say this in a way as I'm articulating, but what you were sharing is making me think of this and just from like an identity perspective as it relates to performance,
Mhm.
because that's something I've personally struggled with, right? If so much of what I've done in sport, I've done here, I attach who it is that I am to that thing so strongly, and then how does that influence everything else that is kind of happening at these other levels that you were describing? So I guess it's like how what oh gosh, Kelly, I'm like, what's the question that I'm asking? But how important is it to kind of go back to that top, right? And like detaching what you do to who it is that you are.
Yes, great.
Yeah. So
That's
and
right. Yeah, you're doing great, yeah. No,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
detach.
You get what I'm asking, but
Yes.
it just took about 5 minutes to get there.
This is beautiful. No, this is beautiful. So, yeah, you're talking about the doing and who you're being. I know exactly what you're talking. And from a performance perspective, that is, it's because if you're performing, take an Olympic athlete or right, or an athlete, pro college or NBA, NFL, whatever, it's like they are doing, right? You're doing the exercises, the eating right, the visualization. Those are all the ingredients to bake the cake, to get to the Olympics, to perform, to even on stage, right? Performer, actors, actresses, singers, whatever, celebrities, right? Public figures. They know there's certain things, right? Part of the craft they get to do, and sometimes that's repeatable and all of that. And there's also the being, like, who am I being? I'm going to bake the cake, but like, well, the cake's not a good example, but it's like, who am I being as a person, right? That beingness is like, who do I get to decide? Would that, and again, back to identity, if you're
Mm.
realizing that you're already a gold medalist, right, in the Olympics, that's your identity. That's the North Star, or take whatever performer, celebrity, athlete, whatever. The gold star is, and let's just use Olympics, the gold, right? The Olympics. That gold star or gold medal winner identity level, how would then, like you said, trickle down? Who are they being in every single moment in practice, in the days they don't feel like waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., in the moments of uncertainty, like what the heck? Or in moments of maybe they broke an ankle or like some bone, right? And they still, I'm like, oh, I'm still training for the Olympics, even though, right, I'm hurt, or a health diagnosis, right? It's like, okay, I got this health diagnosis. How the hell am I gonna, right? Like, but who are you being? So yes, we might have setbacks, we may have different things, but there is definitely like a difference between the being and the doing, right? Because we could do, but if we're just doing and there's no, we're not being the person, right? We're just doing just to do, right? And sometimes they say this with, I'll give you an example. We're just talking about this. I was talking about this yesterday with a friend. Let's talk about money and wealth. I mean, I don't want to bring that conversation in here, but a little bit of a parallel of lottery winners. When they win the lottery, why is it statistically proven, right, that in a couple years, they don't have the money? The
Mm.
money is gone. The money is not invested properly. It's not spent, not properly, but right. Like it's not the, they become a millionaire or multimillionaire or whatever, billionaire, whatever it is, but the money's not 5 years, 10 years. It's just not. That can happen also with public figures, celebrities. You hear it all the time, right?
Yeah, athletes,
Athletes,
professional athletes, yeah.
athletes, amazing contracts and deals, but like, why? Money management? People could say, well, they didn't have the right money management. They didn't have the right financial knowledge, or the people that were managing the money. Okay, yes and yes. And who are they being? Do they have the capacity, the money mindset? And this is more like, this is not my jam, right? But it is like the being of it, right? Like this is more the financial advisors and money wealth managers. But it's also like, how are you with money? If you don't think you deserve, or you don't work on like, I am worthy, because money is just a tool, right? Money, it's just a tool. It's just neutral. Money's neutral. right? But if you think that it's like, well, I'm not worthy, then you're charging it, right? So it's who that's the being part of it, of who do you believe that you are? Do you think you're worthy? Do you think you're enough? Do you think you're bad with money? Right? So it's that kind of same thing with an athlete. Like we and then but also you can hire the best money manager and they can manage the money for you. But if any of that like that beingness is leaking into anything, it's going to leak into your decisions, your actions, your conversations, all of that. So that and I don't know even like kind of where we but that's like the being and the
Yeah.
doing. So it's kind of like it does have to start with the being, but also and that's why the work is so and that's why also trauma and our experiences affect all of this, right? Like it's not listen, we couldn't control how we grew up, who raised us, what environments we were in. As adults, we can take radical responsibility to then say, okay, I either need to unlearn some things or learn some things and then move forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That work is so important. Like, I guess another question that hopefully is a little bit more clear and concise to follow up on this, but even just, from the identity perspective, what are some of those ways that just even in doing that kind of work to help you? Is it something as like you can literally get into a reflection, like, or take time or pause? In the middle of something to kind of cultivate some of that awareness that could be helpful in the process as well.
Yes, the power is in the pause. The power is in the pause. The power is also in the polarity. So when I say polarity, it's in if you're doing, you can also do nothing, right? So they're equally important. Think of a yoga class. Yoga
Yeah.
classes, right?
It's so hard for me.
Right. You're posing, you're like with a pretzel. If you're taking Bikram, you're in like 110 degrees and doing yoga, like all the things, take whatever yoga, right? The last pose in just like the yoga class is Savasana.
I love it.
Why? You're doing all the work for the body. And then last pose, and some people skip it and they say, this is the most important pose
My favorite part.
it's the most important pose of the freaking whole class, right? That's the most important. It's all parts working together, right? However,
Right.
that's the why? Because it's rest and it's
Mm.
taking in all the work that you've done. However, that's that wouldn't be important unless you did the work. So the power and the polarity, it's the doing and the being. Same thing in dating. Masculine and feminine energy. We all have both, even though whatever gender you identify as. Doesn't matter. There's masculine elements to our personality and there's feminine elements. It all works together. So power in the pause, power in the polarity. And I'm going to give a third one, the power of play and pleasure. We don't play enough. And when I say play and pleasure, your mind doesn't have to go all to the dirty part right here. But like, it's how are you having fun? Are you around kids? Are you around animals? How about ice cream, frozen yogurt, whatever it is? Nature.
And do you find, especially as high performers, being challenged by doing things like that just for the joy of it?
Play and pause is important for high performers. And here's why. And it doesn't have to be a certain way. I'm going to share a story. When I was so overwhelmed and high performing, I was managing the corporate job, I was building the business. So all my nights, weekends, all the nooks and crannies was building the business. Like I think I was dating, but I was like, whatever, having fun. It was fine, but it wasn't like, my mind wasn't in it. So I wasn't really having fun. And I remember one of my coaches at the time, she's like, okay, on Sunday, I am going to challenge you to take 4 hours out of a Sunday. Cause again, I was building my business and, I was in corporate. She's like 4 hours on a Sunday to do nothing, to play. And I'm like, I can't do that. I got such visceral anxiety. I was like, what do you mean? Like I have certain things I need to do. She's like, no, you're just gonna. And so I was like, I did, I worked out, or you can hear it in my voice. I'm like, I worked out and I was like, still, I had anxiety the whole freaking 4 hours. I'm like, I can't do, I'm like, I'm going to work out. Like, I just couldn't calm myself down. Now, then I was like, I'm just going to watch. Do you ever watch Masterclass, the series of like things you can
Oh,
learn?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So to me, that's fun. Like learning is
Yeah,
fun. Like, walking is fun, fine. Taking, pole dancing class is fun. But she's like, no, nothing. And I'm like, well, no, no. So my definition of her definition of play and pleasure and fun were different. So that's why I say,
mm,
like, sometimes it's not going into nature. Like, everyone has their own definition. Like, her definition is like, why would you watch masterclass? That's still consuming information. It's still like you're not giving yourself a rest. I'm like, no, that actually is restful for me. So like I
yeah,
would challenge people to say, when I say pleasure and play or fun, it doesn't have to look cookie cutter either. It's whatever brings you, like you said, joy, like joy in the moment. It could be
yeah,
reading a 400-page novel, right? To some people, that's fun. However, what I will say is carving that time, it is gonna feel uncomfortable because it's getting uncomfortable getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. To me, I was just like, go, 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 go the whole time, like, and it wasn't even seasons. I was doing this for, like, 2 or 3 years, and so I wasn't allowing myself to have fun in different ways so I had visceral anxiety during that 4 hours. Now, it got easier because I did it once a week. That was the commitment I made, and it got easier where I did have to put in the reps, just like high performers, right? You just got to put in the reps. It's not going to feel easy in some training situations, but then you adjust to it.
how did you find that then by doing that, that it had a positive impact on, like, the rest of your week and even just your own performance in work?
Yeah, it filled me up. It created more space, right? It's like giving water to a plant. Yeah, it just right because it's like, oh, I feel a little bit more lighter. I feel a little bit
Yeah,
less, right? Or even, you know, dancing or whatever fills you up, right?
yeah, it's
Right?
that fuel,
It's the
yeah.
fuel. It's the just like you have to turn off your cell phone. I mean, sometimes you just got to turn that thing off so the battery gets to like or your computer. You just got to reboot sometimes, right? Like I don't know about you, but right now I have like 30 tabs open.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to clean them before we hopped on, but as I was, like, figuring out the Riverside link, I was like, "I just can't do that right now," but yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So again, like listen, and I'll keep my computer open for like a week, right, with the 30 tabs and everything. But like
Yeah.
then it's like my computer's like, you know what? Like this is not working and it's gonna slow down, or so I will have to reboot, right? Or I get to reboot. Watch my language. And that's another thing too. Like, how are you speaking? I can go off on the how your words create your world. That's really important because you're also think about it, you're always consciously creating. So if you
Mm,
don't allow fun or different parts of that, you're consciously creating this cycle. And that's what I was doing also, like and listen, some seasons are going to require that. I'm not saying that, oh, yeah, everything should be like all pleasure and play and fun. Great, right? But it's like,
yeah.
but think about a woman when she's pregnant, nine
Mm,
months, right? Writing a book, same thing. There's certain seasons of life that, yes, it's not going to be, quote unquote, you can make it fun. You can find the pleasure in each moment. However, you're always consciously creating. I always said, if someone were to follow you around with a camera, like reality TV show, right? Follow you around the camera and say and videotape your whole day, what would you adjust about that? Internally and
wow.
externally, right? If someone were to or, you're being stalked. What would that stalker or whoever that was following you,
Yeah.
what would they be like? What the heck is this person? I mean, it's a little like interesting, right? But it's like, would you be mindlessly scrolling? Would you take the walk, right? Like, what would you clean up or adjust in your day to day or your week to week?
This is such a great question to ask yourself because then I think it reveals, right? Your time investment, your energy investment, what's getting your attention.
Yeah, and again, different seasons. If you're writing a book, if you're wanting to have a family,
Yeah,
your values and your priorities and your attention, they're going to change.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate just that the seasons and what different seasons require and how giving yourself that permission to adjust and shift depending on what that season is. How do you also give yourself grace in that to see yourself of like, hey, there's a lot going on here and I can pause and commit to that, like how you were doing, that once a week and being so intentional about that.
Yeah. So this is what I will say on the giving yourself permission to pause. and to also allow it to be okay, right? It's really, like you said, giving yourself permission. So I'll bring in a story. So when my grandmother was passing and I was her caretaker, I remember Ed Milet, he wrote a book and it was all around the whole like just one more, one more. Now, my attention, energy, and focus was on my grandmom, right? It was on my business and it wasn't really on myself, to be honest. Like it was more taking care of her, keeping my business like up afloat, all of those things. And what I decided was to give myself permission every day, right? Because we didn't know at one point it was very like she could die in 2 hours, she could die like it was very stressful. So I would give myself and I remember uh right. Ed Milet was like, okay, one more. Like, do I go see my grandma today, even though I'm exhausted? Right. One more. I don't like the word regret, but like, what would I choose to do? So I gave myself permission in that season of life to say, okay, I asked myself that question and it was literally on a day to day, hour by hour basis. So did I do certain, and like, right, that took myself like pausing on my book, right? That took, that time. So some things, yes, they're going to take a back burner and giving yourself, and I don't feel any regret for that because it's like I made those decisions. I said, okay, what's one more thing? If I had one more day with her, like, how would and you could do this with your own life, right? Like if this was my last day, like how would I call someone? Would I tell them I love them? So it's that question of like one more, or would you push yourself not into the right self-sabotage and burnout? We're not talking about that, but it's like, what would I do and have no regrets when my head hits that pillow of whatever season you're in? And again, every season is going to look different. You might have, right, a family member who's in the hospital or death or grief or what illness, whatever it is. However, it's so important that you give yourself permission to make those judgment calls for yourself. Grace, right? Give yourself grace, give yourself a break, all of that. So it depends, right, on what you're actually navigating in life. It's not all going to be the same, but also to live with no regrets. I know it sounds that a whole cliche, right? I got to live with no regrets. And it's true. Life happens very, very quickly. And we don't know how many. And listen, Gen Zers are like, yeah, I got 100 years of it. Alpha and Gen Zers are like, yeah, whatever. Right. So, but it's like, but yeah, like, and also not to put a damper, but like, some people pass in their 30s, so we don't really ever know. So it's
Yeah.
this can be throughout generations, right? Of asking that question of like, okay, one more thing. What do I not want to regret? How do I want to live my life? And just giving yourself permission to just be okay with your decisions.
Yeah, I'm just, like, just reflecting in real time, but even, you know, how I think this comes up or can come up, right, where, like, we can play backwards and think like, "Oh, if I would have done this differently," and that can sometimes prohibit us from moving forward. But then even thinking about, like, reflecting on what you just said, where it's like, okay, you have, at the time that you're then making a decision, doing so with what you have at the time and, like, giving yourself that permission to make whatever decision that is or choosing into whatever it is and then keep moving forward because sometimes, like, to your point, there's so much fragility to life, and we don't know what's ahead, and so how often can we get stuck in replaying these scenarios in the past? But also, what if we give ourselves grace in that too? Do you see that also as just, like, a learning process for yourself?
Yes. So I was in $40,000 of credit card debt. I would not open the mail. I think I had 7 credit cards at the time. And I definitely was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have opened another credit card. Oh, like, I should have looked at the bills. Oh, I should." It's like,
Mm.
"How did I land in $40,000 of credit card debt? Oh, I know how, because I never opened the mail. I never looked at the bank account." I was just like, "Oh my gosh, whatever." That taught me so much.
Mm.
So it's like, okay, yeah, I had 7 credit cards, $40,000 of credit card debt. And what I learned also from that process, right, invaluable, and I can share it right now with you. I can share it with anyone. So it's like we're all going to go through whatever we get to go through. We're also consciously creating, right? So, but we can't put all this pressure and be like, I need to be perfect. I'm always consciously creating. I can't curse. I can't do this. And, okay, live your life. However,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can still live your life and be intentional.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that your soul came here to learn,
Mm.
right? So there's certain things that are going to be out of your control and that You could have been like, oh, I should have done that or should have. But guess what? Like when you're in it, you're gonna be like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. This is like, I'm gonna. And when you're out of it, then you see, right? Or when you're in it, sometimes like
Mm,
now I'm like, oh, okay, like I think I know what's kind of occur or what I need to learn. And this is a question that you can ask yourself is whenever you're spiraling or snowballing, you can ask yourself, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson that is going to come out of this? Or what is this teaching me? That your brain will then try to find the answer. And if you really don't know, ask, right? It's like, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What do I need to learn from this situation? You might not be guided to the answer, but it will always show up in some,
mm,
right? Whether it's
some way.
an hour, 5 years from now, but it'll always show up.
Yeah, yeah, and how that question could just even shift your experience
Mm,
of that thing even without changing the outcome. I did it this morning. I was at a doctor appointment, waited over an hour, and I'm sitting there, I'm just so, like, pissed and this and that. People are walking in. They're like, "What time was your appointment?" And I'm like, "Well, mine was at 9:05. When was yours?" And then I'm just building up. And then I'm like, "Okay, what am I learning?" I literally asked myself this morning that because it's just like so much energy for me. Like I was building up so much of this like emotional charge to this thing that I couldn't control. And I think again, it calmed my system down by asking, kind of shifting that thought process. It didn't change, I wasn't in there any faster, but still it helped me in that experience of it.
right. And what if, right? We can go down the what if. And I always say we can play the what if game. We can play the what if game to spiral down. We can play the what if game
Yeah,
to spiral up. But what if, right? Your that inconvenience of waiting so long was protecting you from possibly getting into a car accident on your way home.
mm,
We don't know. What if that
yeah,
waiting, right? So we don't know
yeah,
what that waiting or that patience or that is right trying to
mm,
teach you, or maybe it wasn't even just patience. Maybe it's just like, you know what? Maybe you just needed to self-regulate yourself, your nervous
yeah,
system, right?
yeah,
Kids do it all the time.
yeah,
It's like, oh, kids regulate all the time. We as adults, right, we learn to suppress it. Well,
mm,
yeah, it could have been protecting you for something you didn't even know was going to happen.
yeah, yeah. And then that power of belief in that too, because even, like, to play that scenario out, we don't know, of course, but even just playing that scenario out again, like, calms me. It feels more of like, "Okay." Versus just getting so, like, charged on it. Anyways, yeah. This has been so good, Kelly. Thank you. I really enjoyed digging into this, and thank you for all of your insight, your wisdom, your knowledge, and going there in the different directions with me back and forth, with, some of these questions that were coming up as we were going, but really, really appreciates, I felt like this was like a live coaching session
Yeah.
back and forth, So I'm like, thank you for the grace that you showed throughout that as I'm processing because it's not like written questions
Yeah.
down. I'm assuming you could probably pick that up as I'm, thinking through in my head. So
It's the best way, right? Because it's like, I don't even know, like, I don't remember what I say
I
sometimes.
know.
It's like, I don't know, I'm just channeling like whatever needs to come, out of my personal experience or clients or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, but this has been awesome. And I think a lot of conversations that I have with others and, in these kind of topics as well, too, of things that, a lot of us, you work with very high net worth people and, celebrities and that in a way that sometimes I think on the outside, you could be like, oh, what would they like be challenged? We see them as like up here in their respective rights, but then also going back to what you're saying, like coaches need coaches too, like, therapists need therapists too. And we all, have our unique things that we go through to kind of bring back our common shared humanity.
Listen, I'm going to leave you. In COVID, we all needed toilet paper. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's all.
And it was also hard to come by too. I mean, you have to like order that
For
stuff then
for
online.
everybody.
Yeah,
It didn't matter who you were, right? So it
yeah,
didn't matter.
yeah.
Yes, maybe slightly different issues, but not we're all human.
100%. Well, thank you so much for being here. For those listening, you can learn more about Kelly and her work at kellylynadams.com. But I really appreciate you spending some time with me today and having this conversation, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me. So much fun.